Where did the Bantu migration begin and when? Bantu speakers migrate south from the east, but when we look at the history, it's about 3,000 years BCE, and we know that out of Africa, it's from 100 BCE to 60,000. So are you telling me that there were no Bantus that migrated south or came from the south? Where did great South African ancestors, now forgotten, come from? Because who are these ancestors that you knew and crafted the Lebombo bonds with the marks 35,000 years BCE? Is there proof of humanity emerging from Southern Africa? Bantu migration, we are told, is the largest in history of the people, and it occurred 2,000 years ago. Where from where? Because there's evidence that also the other one from the Nile and also the other one from the west part of Africa. It looks like all over the African continent there be signs of the first and original or human creation or beginnings. Let's look at great South African ancestors now forgotten. Now, when you know that there is a mine in Swaziland known as the Ngwenya Iron Mine, which is the oldest mine in the world, 43,000 years ago, you are not going to be perplexed by the issue that Bantu migration is not a correct theory. Because Africa has always had humanity or humans from the days or when the earth became. And it is very clear that there were many sources where human beings would be found to have trekked from to various places. So we'd rather call it Bantu migrations. Let us look and take a relook at some of the greatest South African ancestors now forgotten. We are not saying these are the only ones. We are just going to pinpoint a few. We want to start with the Eluzumana, who is an ancestor of the Zulus. And we look and we can see here Usenzangakona, Ubabaka King Shaka, Nkosi Ushaka. It is very clear that the Zulus will dominate the whole sphere because they're the largest tribe in South Africa. We are just using South Africa arbitrarily. There is also the Xhosa, the Soto, the Tswana, the Venda, the Tsonga, the Swazi, the Khoisan, the Ndebele, the Pedi, and the super tribes, the Shangans. Shaka amalgamated all the other tribes and built them. One fact that we want to highlight before we go any further is that the Nguni are autochthonous in Africa. They are not a sudden invasion, black colonists or aliens that arrived one day to rob and kill and plunder, as some propagandists have elaborated. This is a fact that we want to understand. So let's look at the great South African ancestors now forgotten who founded melanin-dominant culture and civilization. There is a lot of explanation that we can give, but the fact that we want to do is a quick one to say Hamit was an African civilization. That's a fact. And Hamit was a culture that was all over the earth. Therefore, you find people with the same behavior, clothing, and language, spirituality, religion, governance, royalty, monarch all over Africa, same as in Hamit, Mohenjo-Daro, Babylon, Sumeria, and also Maya. It was a culture just like today. We've got a civilization, European civilization. So you find businessmen in London like that, businessmen in Australia like that, businessmen in New York like that. You can therefore clearly see that it is a civilization that dominates the whole earth today. Anyone can see that it's a civilization, it's a culture, and this is the same. So this is the civilization that supplanted our own civilization. This is a Roman, Greco-Roman, Anglo-Saxon type of culture that is there today. Say a little bit about the Egyptians, ancient Hamiticians. They descended from settlers who moved to the Nile in the valley in prehistoric times, with the population increase coming through natural fertility. In various periods, there were immigrants from southern part of Africa, western part of Africa, and eastern part of Africa, which was later invaded and colonized by the Persians, Pale Persians, the Arabs, and the Europeans. So today it's a mixture of all these people with less melanin dominant human beings present. It is very clear when you read the Stele of Yebo that the ancient Egyptians themselves tells us that they came from countries southeast of Africa as well as southern part of Africa, inclusive of South Africa. So there have been many Bantu migrations across the whole length, width and breadth of the continent you call Africa as well as the earth. Let's look at some closer ancestors. There is a unique prophetess of doom who who played a central role in the Xhosa killing movement of 1856-1857. Then we've got Hincha Kawauta, early 19th century, late 1700s. Rahabe, late 16th century. These were fighters and warriors and preservers of Ubuntu and culture and tradition. If you want to understand more about the history of the Xhosa, it is clear that you can go to this video and study and learn more about these African melanin dominant ancestors. Aresutu, Tswana, Apedi, great South African ancestors, now forgotten. Today we remember them. Before Moshoshwe, the ancient ancestors of the Soto people included the Bafokeng, the Bakwena, and the Bashokwa, among many others. These groups were part of the broader Bantu migration that came back into Southern Africa from Southeast Africa Great Lakes region. We remember the life and heroic act of King Moshoshwe, 1786-1870, the founder of the Basotho nation. And so Mtantis was a warrior queen of a Soto tribe called the Bahlokwa, which was, her name was Wild Cat People. She was powerful, and also she was a petty queen who led people through times of war and displacement in the 19th century. Then we have got Sekukune, who was king of the Marota people, or Baped people, who originated from the Bakasha of the Western Transvaal. Great people, great kings here. The prominent petty kings, we've got them here. The Tswana people. These are one of the most interesting group of Bantus found in South Africa as well as Southern Africa. And it is clear that there is a teaching that they've given us that we understand and that we embrace. It has a lot to do with the divine ancestor Mantsieng, who is often revered as a divine being or a figure or a semi-divine a spirit or individual or person who is believed to have special connection with the spiritual realm, with the chasm, and with the one whom we cannot name, we do not know. And the Mantsieng is believed to be the ancestor of the Tswana people, and is believed that life began when he emerged from a hole in the ground, followed by his people and animals. This is very important because it goes to the core of what we teach as melanin dominant human beings. Let's look at the Ndebele. The Ndebele people are a distinct ethnic group in Southern Africa, separate from the Zulus. Although they share many historical, linguistic, cultural connections. Chief Mangete Zgode was the chief of the Kumalo tribe, a clan of the Nguni who lived near Black Umfolo's river in KwaZulu-Natal, and was the father of King Moslikazi, who migrated north and founded the Ndebele Kingdom in southwestern part of Zimbabwe today, and also up to Zambia. This is very important to understand because Kumalo, or also known as the Mtungwa and Kabashobane, and these are great kings and ancestors. Then we go to the super tribes, the Ndwandwe, the Shangans, Amajele. The Ndwandwes are a subgroup of the Nguni people who populated something of Southern Africa. King Zwide was chief of the Ndwandwe clan who lost his major war against King Shaka, and that's how Shaka grew up. Uzwide Kalanga is the name Kalanga, and we've got Kalangas, we've got Kalanga. We are same people. The elephant queen Ntombaz was a Sangoma of Great North, and there is a Ndwandwe connection to Abangoni and Amashangan. We are one and the same people. Zincumalos, and Mkachwa. His great mentor, the sister and the queen, was Queen Ntombaz, who was a powerful Sangoma, as we have narrated. Some of the generals that came out of Ndwandwe and escaped from King Shaka is Soshangani, who founded the Gaza Empire, which stretched from the southeastern part of Zimbabwe right into Mozambique, which was later taken over by Ngungunyane, also known as Mdungazwe, and Ngungunyane Kanzumalo, who later on lost some wars against the Portuguese. So it is very important to realize that there is also Zwangendaba, who is now buried in Tanganyika or Tanzania, an African king who ruled 1815-48 and led the Jere people on a monumental migration of more than 1,000 kilometers, 1,600 kilometers that lasted almost 20 years. A leader of incomparable stature. He took his initial small group, later called Ngoni, from its original home near modern Swaziland to the present day in Tanzania, and forming one of the most powerful kingdoms in East Africa. Although he is also associated with capturing other people and selling them into slavery, it is very important to notice that he was a great ruler and a king. Now, the Venda or Bavenda are an amalgamation of Bantu-speaking Southern African group, living mostly near South Africa, but also in Zimbabwe. These borders, let's remove them and not think about their royalty. There's a Queen Mojaji, who was a daughter of the Mutapa, who was also a rainmaker, and the royal family is still there. The family is still there. There is also Makado, a great defender of the Bavenda. And then the Mwene Mtapa is also Dambanyika, who is also the first Venda king south of the Limpopo. And the name Venda itself means land of or country. The history of the Venda starts with the kingdom of Mapungubwe. We have done a video about that, where King Shirierenga was the first king of the Venda and Mapungubwe. And also Mwenga Sororenzel, an ancestor who came from also the Great Lakes region. Anyway, for the Koe, the Basarwa, and the San. The Insabi is a legendary figure among the San, the Basarwa people, revered, is also known as a trickster, is a deity, not the real creator, but a deity who outwits adversaries and brings knowledge and wisdom to his people. And these are also indigenous and autochthonous in Africa. Then we now want to conclude this issue and say, according to oral historians and teachers and thinkers like Senzo Maswidi, Mkanyiseni, Mbata, it is clear that there are certain ancestors that are prominent. We shall name a few of them, and in future we shall go in detail to name these ancestors. Silom Kuni, an ancestral spirit, a son of Ntu, who is an ancestor of all humankind and all human race. Ntu, that's why we say Ba Ntu. And we've got Lobedu, who is Tobela, also known as Tobela by the Venda and Lobedu. He was the first legendary king and ancestor. Then we've got Zibaguru, who is also great, known to have come from the Sudan, between the two confluences of the Nile in the Sudan. So today, South Africa itself is ancient to all these people. Is home to all these people whose roots and ethnic connections have been forgotten due to perceived diversity propagated by education, division, where they say the Khoi are not Bantus, and so forth and so forth. Yet, they are all found as Bantus. We call them Bantu ourselves. These four major ancestors that we have named today, Unguni, Untu, Ulobedu, and Zibaguru, are not the only ones, but they are the major ones when we look at Southern Africa, and they are unique, and they are also notable heroines and the others whom we have not named now. So here now are the 9 major languages in South Africa. They all are named the Niger Congo, the Atlantic Congo, Volta Congo, Benue Congo, Bantoid, Southern Bantoid, Narrow Bantu, East Bantu, Southern Bantu, Makua, Nguni, Tsonga, where we've got the Tswan and Ronga, Xitsonga, isiNdebele, isiZulu, isiXhosa, and isiSwati. Then we've got the Soto, Makua, Venda, Soto, Tswana, and these are Sesotho, La, Seboa, Setswana, and Shivenda, and Karanga. All these are there. We are just looking at South Africa at this point in time. So we have given great South African ancestors now forgotten. Now we have remembered them. So let us celebrate them to this coming month in a large and massive way on the 8th of May, when we celebrate Great Ancestor, Holy Ancestors Day. Thank you very much. Subscribe to our channel, like our videos, share, and leave a comment. Till we meet again, you can get in touch with us on our email, join@marifado.com. Your manager Topi Priest Rabbi LM Mjakanja says great South African ancestors have now been remembered. Amen.